On the campaign, I would often say, when we fight, we win. But here's the thing. Sometimes the fight takes a while. That doesn't mean we won't win.
Yes, Kamala yesterday at her alleged concession speech at Howard University in Washington, D.C., her alma mater. An HBCU. It's an HBCU. That's a historically black college or university. You know, that might explain the squirrel. Did you see the squirrel? There was a squirrel on the stage. It was the spirit of Peanut, the ghost of Peanut, the squirrel, who the Democrats killed. They kidnapped Peanut and they killed Peanut because they couldn't rest at night knowing that someone had a tame squirrel in their home in upstate New York, so they raided the home. 10 state agents raided the home. They kidnapped Peanut the squirrel and they killed Peanut the squirrel because you're not allowed to have a squirrel in your house. So the state came along and killed it. But that was Kamala. And there was a squirrel up on the stage. Before Kamala got up on the stage at Howard University, there was a squirrel running around back there behind the podium, the vice presidential podium. And, you know, kind of worthy of note, since it's an HBCU, it was a black squirrel. It was a black squirrel, a pitch black squirrel at the HBCU, which, honestly, in Washington, D.C. is not unusual because we have tons and tons of black squirrels. My neighborhood is thick with black squirrels, and they're extra cool. You know, a black squirrel is extra cool. Gray squirrels are everywhere. Black squirrels are extra cool. Comes with a story, too. Apparently, there were 6 or 8 black squirrels gifted to the National Zoo decades ago. And surprise, surprise, they broke out. They escaped from the National Zoo run by the Smithsonian, you know, the museum people. And the squirrels escaped from the National Zoo in Washington, D.C., and now they're all over the city. Apparently, they've been breeding like squirrels, and they're everywhere. And so there was a black squirrel running around, people right behind where Kamala was going to speak, and people are theorizing that it's the spirit of Peanut, the squirrel put to death by the state of New York, Kathy Hochul. What's the matter with these people? Honestly. Yeah, so Kamala, she was at Howard University, and she took to the podium, and the squirrel had already sought refuge elsewhere, and Kamala gave her speech.
In our nation, we owe loyalty not to a president or a party, but to the Constitution of the United States.
Unless it's Obama or Biden. In which case...
And loyalty to our conscience and to our God.
Oh,
my allegiance to all three is why I am here to say, while I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign.
Fight. That last time I heard President Trump use the word fight that many times, he had just been shot through the ear by a sniper. And he pumped his bloody fist in the air while blood streamed down his face because a Democrat had just shot him. And President Trump said, fight, while pumping his fist in the air. And the Secret Service was dragging him off the stage there in Butler, Pennsylvania. That was an amazing moment. Yeah, and he said fight. You know, he's fighting for us. Now, who is Kamala talking about fighting for? The left, a radical left-wing anti-American agenda that comes from overseas. Overseas, I have so much to say. I have friends out there in the real world that keep in touch with me, and it's great. We were just talking during the mailbag. We were talking to nice people, and talked about the Senate Majority Leader. Now that the turtle is going to step aside as leader, Mitch McConnell, you know. And I was talking about this, and our good friend said, Ted Cruz. What about Ted Cruz? And I love Ted Cruz, and I talked about Tom Cotton, because Tom Cotton is a great American, too. And now I'm getting wised up here, because my friend Tim is dialed in. And he said, as for the incoming Senate Majority Leader with the Republicans in charge of the Senate, so far, in terms of people that have announced as candidates, Senator Rick Scott has announced that he's interested in becoming the Republican Senate Majority Leader. Senator John Thune has announced that he's interested in becoming, he's smart, both smart, solid guys. And Senator John Cornyn from Texas. And so those three have announced their interest, right? Ted Cruz was fighting a hard fight because the Democrat in Texas, he was up for re-election this year. And day before yesterday, he won, and he's returning to the Senate. The Democrats threw everything they could. The kitchen sink, Peanut the squirrel, they threw everything at trying to defeat Ted Cruz in Texas. They tried to move a bunch of commies into Austin, Texas, and probably got him to vote twice and stuff. But Ted Cruz won, so he's coming back to the Senate. And I'd like to see him throw his hat into the ring, as they say. Why do they throw hats into rings anyway? There it is. But I'd like to see him, and I'd like to see Tom Cotton at least in the discussion. And with Rick Scott and John Thune and John Cornyn competing, the announced candidates for Republican Senate Majority Leader, there is a secret ballot vote next week among the Republicans in the Senate. And so we'll keep a close eye on that. There is also discussion that Kevin McCarthy, the always remarkably inarticulate but pleasant and nice Kevin McCarthy, one-time Speaker of the House, scuttlebutt that Kevin McCarthy is in the running to become the White House Chief of Staff for Donald John Trump. And that's kind of an interesting discussion. Now, look, I mean, again, I always made fun of him because as Speaker, you should be able to speak well, and he doesn't speak well, Kevin McCarthy. But everybody likes the guy. Everybody says he's a nice guy, and they like working with him, and he's pleasant, and he's good, and all of that. So that's kind of fun. Kevin McCarthy. Womp, womp, womp. And, yeah, you know, January 20th, Inauguration Day, January 2025, Donald Trump will be inaugurated again. And kind of fascinating. Interestingly, the college football playoffs national championship game is also on January 20th. But, you know, which is the bigger thing? That's what I like to know. Also, we've got Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who, as you might imagine, is a lifelong Democrat, and he said recently that his father, Robert F. Kennedy Sr., and his uncle, John F. Kennedy, both assassinated people, one by a communist, or the deep state, John F. Kennedy, and the other by Sirhan Sirhan, still alive and well, enjoying 3 culturally sensitive meals a day in a prison in California, although he did make parole last year. They just haven't let him out yet. But Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is the target of the ire of the Democrat Party, and that means a corrupt news media as well. Now, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. spoke to CNN, amazingly, and CNN is spending all their time attacking him. Amazing. No, wait, I apologize. He spoke to NBC News, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., but CNN is running the hell out of the video because they're attacking Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And we were just watching it a little while ago, CNN with Robert F. Kennedy interview from NBC News up on their screen. Vaccine denier RFK Jr. pledges to immediately, quote, study, end quote, their safety. Now, what kind of lunacy is that? I've got to say. They're attacking RFK Jr., and they put the word study in quotation marks. Vaccine denier. What does that mean? Does he deny that vaccines exist? And he's not a vaccine denier. He's not a big pro-vaccine booster advocate because he's concerned about their safety. And President Trump has talked about making RFK Jr., giving him a position in the administration, possibly even HHS, and that he would look at food safety in the United States and why so many kids have so many diseases and things these days and across the spectrum of panoply. And they're attacking him now, a member of the Kennedy family, because, you know, the Democrat Party has lost its mind. So who could President Trump pick for his cabinet? That is going to be an interesting, and I got to say that the Trump family is saying that he knows a lot more about Washington now than he did in 2016, 2017, when he came to Washington. And he knows now to pick people that are faithful to the agenda. And it's not all about him, it's about the agenda. And he picked people who were not his friends last time around and that were undermining him from their powerful posts during his first run as president of the United States. And I think this time he does know a lot more of this. There's no doubt that he's going to know a lot more coming in about how all of this works. He was brand new to politics, and really nobody expected him to win the presidency last time around. But good stuff. Good stuff. And they've got Scott Bessent on the potential secretaries of state. Apparently front-runner Scott Bessent. I don't know Scott Bessent. Do you know Scott Bessent? John Paulson is potential Treasury Secretary. Larry Kudlow, Lawrence Kudlow, as potential Treasury Secretary as well. And Robert, Leitzner. Sure. Leitzer. I'm going to go with Leitzer. Oh, excuse me. It's Lighthizer. Robert Lighthizer. I apologize. Potential Treasury Secretary as well. Most of us don't know these people. Howard Lutnick as a potential Treasury Secretary. Richard Grenell, who's always a lot of fun, very smart guy, worked in the first Trump administration, various capacities, as potential National Security Advisor, Rick Grenell. Also, I saw his name mentioned as potential Secretary of State. Robert O'Brien as potential Secretary of State. Bill Hagerty as potential Secretary of State. Marco Rubio as potential Secretary of State, our chief diplomat. That's interesting. Mike Walls as potential Defense Secretary. Mike Pompeo, number one in his class at West Point, potential Defense Secretary. Tom Cotton as potential Defense Secretary, but I'm not sure he's interested in that, although I think he's a good, solid, smart guy, combat veteran, Harvard Law, good guy. General Keith Kellogg as some kind of national security post and national security advisor or so on. Tom Homan. You know Tom Homan. I heard him today on the television talking about securing the border. Tom Homan is potential Homeland Security Secretary, Department of Homeland Security. Chad Wolf as potential Homeland Security Secretary as well. Very good guy, very solid guy, I've got to say. Tom Homan, no nonsense guy. Remarkable stuff. John Ratcliffe as potential Attorney General. He's very good, very strong, good guy. Mike Lee, he's a senator, as potential Attorney General, another really smart, really solid guy. Susie Wiles as potential White House Chief of Staff. All kinds of Kash Patel as some kind of national security position, national security post. So we're at that point now because Election Day has come and gone. Isn't it wonderful? Yes, it is. So many amazing things. And let me tell you, because there are so many posts to fill and so much wildness but listen to this, because Axios, left-wing outlet Axios, with the story today, Trump becomes the most powerful Republican president of the modern era. And Axios writes, Donald J. Trump has vanquished, they say, the Bushes, the Clintons, the Bidens, the Obamas, and the entire establishment of both parties. Let's not forget the Cheneys, because, and I guess this means that Liz Cheney won't be the Attorney General of the United States after all, because the Democrats were talking about making her the Attorney General to go after Trump and his allies with a vengeance. So Liz Cheney will not be running the Department of Justice, not become the Attorney General. She is out of the running as Attorney General. And again, this is a crazy reality. CNN and MSNBC today are both talking about the war in Ukraine coming to an end. Why weren't they talking about that last week? Because the military-industrial complex and the Democrat Party are dating. That's why. And President Trump's going to stop funding the war in Ukraine. We must fund the war in Ukraine in perpetuity. Well, I don't know what would be the terms of ending the war in Ukraine. They don't even ask that. They just want the war to keep going. CNN and MSNBC, because they're Democrat Party front groups, and they want endless war. That's who they are. Could the fate of America's children be tied to the fate of the United States of America? Why, certainly it can, much like abortionists put an end to the lives of the unborn. The left seems determined to snuff out everything else in the United States of America, all of our customs and traditions and science and gender and everything else. But Preborn, great organization, Preborn stands as a beacon of hope and light for the most defenseless among us. Preborn babies, the unborn, every day, Preborn's network of clinics helps to rescue, on average, more than 200 unborn babies every day while surrounding the expectant mothers with love and with God and with faith, offering free ultrasounds. Turns out, give a woman an ultrasound and witnessing the miracle of life inside of her. Listen, never been more crucial as we navigate through this time of moral decline. But Preborn saves lives. Will you join Preborn in helping to protect the least among us? For just $28, you can sponsor an ultrasound and give an expectant mother the chance to choose life by seeing the little fella right there inside of her. You know, not only for her baby, but for herself. An ultrasound can double a baby's chance of living a long and prosperous life. To donate securely, all you have to do is dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250. You dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. Or you can go online to preborn.com/plant. That's preborn.com/PLANTE. It is a good day. So we've got all kinds of wacky the time we have remaining. Yeah, see, and now we're talking about ending the war in Ukraine. And they're attacking President Trump on CNN and MSNBC because it's a part of the discussion. Ending war is not something they want. Trump is here. Remember a period of peace for 4 years, not so long ago? Oh, yeah, the Trump presidency. Now, the Dementos at CNN, I got to tell you, where to even begin with their insanity? They had a soundbite. They have a soundbite they're playing over and over again of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and the lower third graphic, as they call it, says vaccine denier RFK Jr. pledges to immediately, quote, study, end quote, their safety. Isn't that amazing? Now, is RFK Jr. a vaccine denier? Let me start with that. And when they put the word study in quotation marks, what did he say that prompted this hostile graphic on the screen? And then why is CNN upset that we're now talking about ending the war in Ukraine? Amazing. Their headline is, Ukraine is forced to confront a brutal Trump reality that it hoped would never happen. Joe Biden, speaking at the White House, said that his brain doesn't work. He didn't say it quite like that. He said, a defeat does not mean we are defeated. A defeat does not mean we are defeated. You see, they use the words, but they don't know what they mean. Yeah. And the radical extremist leftists are projecting their own sensibilities and their own worldview on the rest of us, as they so commonly do. And they are quite common, aren't they? Yes, they are. Now, I should point out that Arizona and Nevada, they're still counting. They're still counting votes. They're a little slow there. And we've got Carrie Lake in Arizona running for the Senate. Wonderful, beautiful. Met her a couple of times. My brother Daniel used to work with her as a news guy in Arizona. But this radical named Ruben Gallego, has he declared victory? I think he might have declared victory, but Carrie Lake is in the race. And Carrie Lake tweeted out, they're still counting the votes. And she said, if I win 53% of the outstanding votes that have not yet been counted, then I win the Senate seat. But the news media and the other Democrats are kind of declaring it to be over because they lie all the time. And I'm still looking for President Trump to get 311 electoral votes in the Electoral College, because we're still counting Nevada and Arizona. We haven't counted they're still counting because you know how they are. Just amazing stuff. Oh, by the way, Kamala Harris ended her presidential bid, her presidential campaign, with $20 million in debt, which is a little ironic since the campaign raised over $1 billion, more than $1 billion. And being a Democrat, she spent all that and more because that's what they do. That's $1 billion plus $20 million. Oh, did we run out of money? Yeah, you ran out of money. That's pretty amazing stuff. I'm telling you. Now they've got pretty amazing stuff going on all over the place here, I've got to say. The next 3 months on the path to Inauguration Day, and that's not quite 3 months, I think, but the next 3 months is a particularly dangerous time for our country. As with any transition, it's a transition. Usually when I see transition, I think of Democrats dressing up in, as the gender that they're not. As with any transition, our enemy will attempt to test us. We got Iran and Russia and China and illegal aliens swarming our border now, trying to get in before Trump is inaugurated. This is only made worse by a president, Joe Biden, who is non compos mentis, and a VP, Kamala Harris, who is threatening a guerrilla fight against her former political opponent. That's kind of fun from Ezra Cohen. And honestly, it's true. You got to look out for these people. They're jihadis for the left, and they're not on our side. And these are difficult and precarious times, to be sure. And we are dealing with fanatics, as we are. You got to keep your eyes peeled at all times, right? Now, Elie Mystal, who is a left-wing radical extremist racist with really funny hair, and he's on MSDNC a lot. And was he a college professor? He's mental for all. Yeah, he's a fake columnist and all that. He types on X, formerly known as Twitter. The first thing MAGA will do is dismantle the apparatus necessary for everybody to mount, for anybody, to mount a serious challenge against them again. This is, again, projecting their own commie sensibilities on everybody else. That's completely ridiculous. Trump was already president for 4 years. Their memories fail them, don't they? There will be an election, he puts election in quotation marks, in 28, 4 years from now. But it will be dysfunctionary. What? It will? We are a one-party state now. These people are fanatics. They're extremists. He actually says there will be an election in 28, but it will be perfunctory. We're a one-party state now. This is what they dream of. But please tell me more about how the Dem Party needs to be more centrist or more progressive. He's advocating for more extremism and more radicalism because that's who he is. Or more populist or more socialist or whatever the hell, he writes. The beep, expletive deleted, he's cursing on his thing because he's keeping it classy, radical, racist, extremist. The beep, they'll let us shout while already controlling everything, will be super interesting to some, no doubt. These people are really, they're radicals, they're extremists, they're fanatical, they're crazy, they're not on our side. Let me get back because we've got this crazy CNN stuff, right? CNN attacking Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and they're running video from his NBC interview, and CNN's graphic says, vaccine denier RFK Jr. pledges to immediately, quote, study, end quote, their safety. Now, what did Robert F. Kennedy, I'm going to play the audio of the video that CNN played while they were attacking him and calling him a vaccine denier and saying that, and mockingly in quotation marks, that pledges to immediately study their safety. Here's the soundbite that CNN was playing while they were peddling this falsehood.
I'm not going to take away anybody's vaccines. I've never been anti-vaccine.
You're not?
I'm going to make sure the scientific safety studies and efficacies are out there and people can make individual assessments about whether that product is going to be good for them.
Yeah, yeah, right. Wait a minute. You're not going to take anybody's vaccines, and you just want to make sure that they're safe. And not going to deny anybody anything, and I'm not anti-vaccine. I just want to give people choice. And that's when the fascists come in. At CNN, Abilio Acosta, his family fled Cuba, but he brought a bunch of Cuba with him, didn't he? He's basically a commie. He's a commie. Boy, that's just amazing stuff. They are really something. These guys. Yeah, let's go to the crazy media people, because they've had a meltdown, and again they're attacking RFK Jr., calling him a vaccine denier. He's like, I'm not anti-vaccine. I'm not going to deny anybody access to vaccines. I just want people to be well informed. I think studies would be good. What do you think about that? And CNN is attacking him for it because they're not a news organization. They're a political organization. And they share the fanatical extremist worldview of the Elie Mystals of the world, with crazy hair and crazier words. Just insane. But it gets crazier from there, too, because they're just nuts. Man, oh, man. You want to start at 8? 8. Let's go to, oh, wait, The View. I love The View. They're completely insane. Oh, yeah, and again, on CNN, they're talking about, and on MSDNC, they're inviting military people on to talk about the end of the war in Ukraine. And they are, from all outward indications, they are against ending the war in Ukraine. They don't want to even talk about ending the war in Ukraine. And they're making up things, which they do a lot of, the fertile imaginations of children that they've carried into adulthood. Because Trump, he's going to kill NATO, and he's going to, and the war is going to, and Putin's going to win, and Putin. Oh, yeah, speaking of which, there's another crazy Putin story today, because the crazy people, and honestly, I love that Trump becomes the most powerful Republican president in the modern era, but they've got crazier and crazier stuff. Bob Woodward of Watergate fame. That's what it's going to say on his tombstone. His tombstone's going to read, Bob Woodward, of Watergate fame. Bob Woodward says Trump's former DNI, Dan Coates, tells me Putin might be, quote, blackmailing, end quote, Trump. Again, this is a rule, hard and fast rule. Anytime they have one word in quotation marks, you're being led astray. You're being fed BS. So Tom Elliott tweets up, Bob Woodward, they love their colons. Trump's former DNI, Dan Coates, yeah, sure he does, tells me Putin might be, quote, blackmailing Trump, end quote. And so they had Bob Woodward on CNN with Manderson Pooper, right? And he said, well, they got the big scoop that somebody says Dan Coates. What is he sleeping with Putin? How would he know that Putin is blackmailing? And what would he blackmail him over, Dan Coates, if you're going to make an outrageous claim like this? So do you have that Woodward thing? Bob Woodward on CNN with Carl Bernstein, too. They're sitting side by side talking to Manderson Pooper.
The relationship Trump has with Putin, the Russian leader. I talked a couple of months ago to Dan Coates, the former director of national intelligence under Trump, and I said, what's going on in this relationship between Trump and Putin? And Dan Coates said, it's so close, almost. It seems like it might be blackmail.
It's so close, it's almost like it might be. Blackmail. Well, we're going to have to waterboard Dan Coates at the Gulag after brought through the boxcars, the rail spur, and the newly constructed prisons, and find out where he learned them. But did you hear all the hedge words, all the fudge words, all the qualified? It's almost like it might be, like it could be months ago. So he claims that Coates used the word blackmail, and that becomes the headline at the fraudulent Beephole, CNN, and, of course, Watergate fame. Now, Jimmy Kimmel last night on ABC, he's got a TV show, and they pay him many millions of dollars a year. And ABC does insane propaganda for the left, and they're coming for your children. They're going to take their genitals and put them in prison camps and kill them all. So I'm just borrowing some Democrat rhetoric here. But here's Jimmy Kimmel last night on his TV show. He literally starts crying while making up stuff about, because last night it was the day after we had just learned about the results of the presidential election. And he's literally crying like a little girl wearing little girl's clothes. And he's literally crying, saying that, oh, it's so bad for women and Ukraine. We got to keep the war going on forever and ever. Jimmy Kimmel last night.
Let's be honest. It was a terrible night last night. It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go.
Immigrants? You mean illegal immigrants who are illegally in the country, like Tren de Aragua gang members out of Venezuela and child sex traffickers and drug traffickers, fentanyl traffickers, and the rapists and murderers? Oh, you mean the illegal aliens? Now, see, immigrants, I work with immigrants, I hang out with immigrants, I live with immigrants all over my building. Legal immigrants are wonderful, make America great, spicier, nice restaurants, good stuff like that. But it's going to be bad for everything, and for women and for children. Well, fewer of them might be killed, I guess, and raped and murdered by Tren de Aragua. But it's really terrible. And we might open doors for women at buildings and car doors and things like that. We might be polite. He's crying.
For healthcare, for our climate.
For healthcare, our climate.
For science.
Science. How many genders? Journalism.
For justice, for free speech.
Justice.
It was a terrible night for poor
free
people.
Speech. You're the
for the middle class,
people.
For seniors who rely on Social Security, for our allies in Ukraine. For
crying.
NATO, for the truth.
NATO. He made NATO stronger.
And democracy and decency.
Democracy.
And it was a terrible night for everyone who voted against him. And guess what? It was a bad night for everyone who voted for him, too. You just don't realize it yet.
And decency. Well, listen, Hitler, Nazi, fascists. Yeah, this is the decency that they're talking about. And you harvest the organs of 1 million unborn babies every year in the name of decency. In science, you got a Supreme Court justice doesn't know what a woman is. You think that men have wombs and can give birth. You think that girls can be boys by saying so, and boys can become girls because you told them they are, and you've convinced an innocent little child of something that's false.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition? No, I can't.
Provide.
You can't?
Not in this context.
So
I'm not a biologist.
Sounded like she was stuck on the word provide. You hear that? So, provide a word? Yeah. That's isn't that amazing? They're just amazing, man. Oh man, I look what I've done to the clock. I need another hour. I really do. I'm gonna have to go to Newsmax and get another hour. The crazy people on The View, boy, are they mental. They got a lot of mental issues. CNN got Boris Sanchez on CNN. His name is Boris Sanchez. So Latin American with a Soviet first name because the communists were moving in there, Sandinistas and things. The Democrats were helping. The Soviets moved into Latin America. Hence, Boris Sanchez. Need I say more?
I talked a couple of months ago to Dan Coates, and I said, what's going on between Trump and Putin? And Dan Coates said, it's so close, it seems like it might be blackmail.
Yes. Manderson Pooper's show last night with Bob Woodward. Stammerin' Bob, as they call him. And turns out that Bob Woodward had that in his book 4 years ago. Last night he was on Manderson Pooper, retreading that like it was new when it's not. Aren't they amazing? Yeah, 4 years ago. Now they're pretending it's new. Yeah, sure, yeah. The fertile fantasy life of the Democrat Party. We got this crazy guy at the University of Oregon. I don't think I'm going to be able to get to him, but he posted a video saying that if you voted for Trump, he wants you to kill yourself. And then he self-immolated, which was funny, but crazy. All right, let's grab a phone call, Michael. Let's go to Craig, calling from Gaithersburg, Maryland. Oh, Craig, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, good morning, Chris. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
What an interesting week. What an interesting week it's been.
It has been a fascinating week.
Yep, it sure has. Hey, I just wanted to remind you and the listeners, we have been lectured for the last 15 years. And, I can recall I'm out working in the yard, so if I sound like I'm out of breath, I'm working.
Take a break.
Take a break, yeah. Listen, Obama, I can remember saying elections have consequences, right?
Yeah.
And I also remember him saying to the GOP, you can come along for the ride, but you've got to sit at the back of the bus. Now, I hope that wasn't a racial slant on his part. And when I say this, I don't mean it to be. But it's their turn now to sit at the back of the bus. And I say that we can offer an olive branch in the way of snacks and drinks, but, the people have spoken. The popular vote has spoken. Something that they have been crying for forever. They want to change and eliminate the Electoral College.
Yep.
Well, how would that have worked out this time around?
Right. Well, they're crazy. I mean, look, one of the things we got to keep our eyes peeled for, Craig, is that they just keep making up lies and telling them over and over again because they live by the Joseph Goebbels rule of the Socialist Workers' Party of Adolf Hitler, that a lie told once remains a lie, but a lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth. And they say, again, they're peddling this, Republicans are anti-woman. The Democrat Party is accusing the Republican Party of being anti-woman. And it's bad, Jimmy Kimmel. Bad for children. It's bad for children. No, the opposite is true. We're the people that protect women, that protect children, that promote and raise boys to be men and girls to be women. And we know what women are, unlike Ketanji Brown Jackson and so many others. And we're the pro-economy people and food on the grocery store shelves and no war. And we don't wave thousands and thousands of gang members into the country to maraud through your neighborhood and ruin your schools. We're here to bring good things. But the left, here's the thing, Craig. They repeat the lie themselves so many times that they end up, I'm convinced, believing the lie themselves. And that's where it really gets crazy. And Jimmy Kimmel is crying, and you can't help but laugh at these idiots. How wrong can they be? I think we're about to find out.
Remember, a defeat does not mean we are defeated.